Elaine McFadden. Take a walk on the wild side. Will the birds and the bees survive? Right before me, my newfound hippie side. Once ignored these conspiracies online. Out the window, visions of the earth. Sign me up now, make sure you use your smart. Take a walk on the wild side. Will the birds and the bees survive? Would your children lie to see Mother Nature's side? Welcome to Smart Health Talk with your host, Elaine McFadden.
Welcome, everyone. This is Smart Health Talk Radio Show. Yeah, right on. You're at the right station because you're listening to us right here on KCAA, and hopefully this is your favorite station. And I'm sure if you tune in, not only do you find a whole wide variety, but you walk away a lot smarter person. And I tell you, that is what this show is all about. We want you to be a smart health talk shopper. And we want you to get the most nutrition bang for your buck. And not just that, but we want to take care of you. That's right. I'm your own personal dietitian for today, and I have a master's in public health, of which I use to bring you all kinds of information. Because when we're talking health, diet and exercise definitely play a key role. But there are so many other things in the environment that play a role in our long-term health, especially for chronic disease. And why is this important? Well, maybe because those are the top killers. That's right. Heart disease, number one, in case you didn't know. Then we've got like diabetes, we have cancer. Of course, up there with heart disease is stroke. And so these are the kind of things that are killing the most amount of people. And I want you, we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about our pets today, how to keep our pets safe. We're going to be talking about the latest on what's going on with pesticides, lawsuits, what these companies are up to, how to keep your home safe. And we're also going to talk about cotton and what kind of influence that has on your life. And then cottonseed oil is actually in your food and why that should scare you. We're going to be talking about that along with some suggestions on some other oils that would be a much better choice for you. Now, I have a guest here in the studio, and I hope that everyone that wants to watch us in the studio here is headed right over to kcaaradio.com because you can see us on Ustream. Yeah, we got two boxy ladies here in the studio. That's right. I got Jeannie. It's Parcells, correct?
Lamb. Parcells.
Oh, Lamb. Parcells Lamb. Or
Lamb Parcells.
Oh, Lamb Parcells. Okay. Okay, everyone. It's Jeannie Lamb Parcells. Okay.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, it's Jeannie. Thanks so much for joining us today, Jeannie.
You're welcome.
Yes, and Jeannie and I have long known each other because we actually live in the same neighborhood and we're neighborly.
And I met her while she was jogging by, getting all in shape in front of my house. Beautiful red hair flying by.
Right. I can't even believe that you said that, but yeah, I'm still working on the in shape part. But you know, it's all about like just suiting up, showing up, and getting out there.
Getting out there and doing it.
And where else do we see each other, Jeannie?
Oh, and we see each other at the gym too.
Yeah, that's right. Because we're in the pool having a good time, swimming. I love swimming as an exercise.
And I see her fiance in the health food store buying. She sends him out to buy the groceries.
I know, he does all the grocery shopping. I totally luck out on that.
Only organics.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We go to Clark's Nutrition, who's been our sponsor before, and so we love that story. We've been shopping there for over 20 years personally.
I do too. I love it.
Yeah, they've got such a great wide variety, and I would much rather shop in that store instead of all these other major supermarkets. I'm sorry, but first of all, it's habit. Like I said, I've been shopping there over 20 years, family-owned business, and
They have everything,
they
too.
have the kind of food that I'm
Everything.
looking for,
So
which is
cool
clean,
things
safe
I find
food.
out that's really good. Like my daughter just turned me on to some root that you can thicken things up with. It's Kuzu, and they have it.
Oh,
You
yeah,
can buy it there.
the kuzu. It's like a Japanese.
Japanese, yeah.
Yeah, it's a starch.
Yeah.
It's basically
It's from a
that's-
root.
Yeah, from a root.
It's better.
Yeah.
I think it's better for you than cornstarch and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was an excellent suggestion from her. And like those are, I love a lot of the Japanese type of foods. Because one of the things that we look for, especially myself as a dietitian that's like getting on in years myself, because as you age, you lose.
You don't look it. You look
Well,
amazing.
as you age, you lose muscle no matter how hard you try. It's just something that happens. And the less muscle, the less calories you can have and maintain your weight. So as we get older, that's just the way the way the world works here is that
Fat
you
flops.
yeah. Well, and you don't get as many calories as you get older, unfortunately. So what do you want to do, Jeannie? What would you think would be like a really good choice for a food?
A good choice. I love salads. A big salad. That's what I'm into. Fresh. Everything fresh, not cooked.
Yeah,
Put your nuts in there.
those are excellent choices because you get like the most nutrition that way.
I'm going to start eating them for breakfast.
There's
too.
only
Sorry.
a few things that are you get more nutrition cooked, but most things are raw. And that choice that you mentioned is definitely actually vegetables are that's at the very top of my list. Are vegetables because they're the highest antioxidant content, and we know that antioxidants help reduce our risk of cancer. And all of us are susceptible to this. People, we hear more and more about people that get cancer. They do not have it in their family. That is not something that you can count on. Environment plays a big role in it, and of course, diet and exercise. But you never know. You could be at the wrong place at the wrong time and breathe in something very, very toxic. And later on in life, boom, all of a sudden, cancer. And that is why we talk about healthcare on this show as well. I know that people have a 60% higher chance of dying if they have no health care. And not just that, but it's around the same statistic on how many bankruptcies are related to health care. Wow. 60%. And like we've mentioned on the show before, you can do everything right your entire life. You can work your job, pay your bills on time, save your money, pay your mortgage on time, buying a house, and then all it takes is one catastrophic illness to wipe everything away. All your savings, have to sell the house, your credit is down the toilet, and that's why Warren Buffett, who is number 2 on the Forbes list of richest men, says that single payer, some type of single payer, universal, there's different ways of doing it. But bottom line, everyone in our country has health care. We get up in the morning. We don't have to worry about this. You don't have to be stuck in a job. How many people out there are in a job
That's right. Yeah.
that they don't want to leave because they're afraid of losing their health care? What kind of life is that when you're doing something you don't like? Maybe you hate it. And getting up every day, going to work. I mean, what is that to look forward to? Yeah. You're not inspired. We have so many different situations where, people with pre-existing conditions. We have so many children born with birth defects. And the thing is that gets me, Jeannie, is that this is not necessarily these people's fault. And when we get into our discussion a little bit more about pesticides, and we have Jeannie's story. This is not a scientific, study, anyone. But I trust Jeannie as someone who is an expert. And why don't you go ahead and tell everyone what you're an expert in, Jeannie?
Well, I raise and train Labrador Retrievers, and we do that for service dogs and therapy dogs and for companion animals. And our dogs have been on television shows and for ads, and really helping people out a lot. We have some of our dogs have been used as signal dogs for people who have diabetes, for autistic children, all kinds of.
And those dogs literally change people's lives. I
Yes.
mean, those are programs training these dogs for special needs. Is something I'm very passionate about. That we plug the Guide Dogs of the Desert on our show many times on Twitter. I'm always promoting them. The Humane Society, of course. But, you know, when you have a disability and something, I know I've seen shows that even something like a seizure, the dog knows before it happens, so it gives the person a chance to get to a safe place. I mean, how do you even train a dog for this? I mean, that's a special gift. That's something I've always really admired about you, because that takes,
thank you.
well, it takes patience, and it takes the ability to really communicate with a dog, and you have to be very focused.
Well, we live with our animals, so that's
Yeah.
basically the way I train the dogs. Is the more they, Caesar Milan says the best trained dog is the man's who's a homeless, who has his dog because he's with them 24/7, and you know, so they know people. Like they communicate the best with them because they're always with them, and that's what we do. We live with our dogs. When the puppies are bred, females are bred, they're bred and they're brought into the house, and the puppies are raised in the house, and they hear all the sounds. I hold them all during the day, and very difficult to do.
That's probably why you focus
Wink,
on.
wink.
Is it golden retriever or
Labrador?
Okay,
Yeah, number one most popular dog in the world for 30
tell
years.
us the difference between those two, because I think a lot of people probably.
Well, we're
get it
number
mixed up.
one, and golden retrievers are number three.
Okay.
I tend to believe that they're the smartest dog, one of the smartest dogs, and they're very, very calm. They're bred to be with people. So I don't know about golden retrievers, but they're the ones used for the blind and for search and rescue more than any other dog.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So do you see that intelligence?
Yes.
Living with them?
Yes, they'll tell you things, you know. They'll let you know when something's wrong. If somebody's like got itself stuck somewhere or something out in the yard, or something's going on, they'll tell us. Yeah.
Well, why don't you tell people about like the location of your home, since we're talking about your house right now, because that kind of plays a key role in some of the things you've been exposed to.
Okay, well, we're located in Loma Linda, and we're in a part of Loma Linda. When people arrive at my house, they say, "Oh, gee, I feel like I'm out in the country, you know, here. It's just so unusual." Because when you come down, there's a housing tract on one end, and then on the other end, but in the middle, there isn't anything. And it's 104, I think the house is, and it's a Van Leuven home, which I think they had like 80,000 acres of orange groves at one point. They weren't the very first orange growers, but they were one of the first. And so
it has a lot of historical.
Has a lot of and it's
history.
solid redwood. So it was built by the Van Leuvens, I think, and even has this round symbol that on the three different sides, and I think that was from whatever.
The tree?
No, it was a Van Leuven, wherever their
their logo, like their seal, or.
Well, it's like Danish or something, you know,
okay.
symbol. Anyway. So we've lived there that long, and then
their coats of arms.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. They were royalty. But you know, there's a couple of trees in your yard too that are just like I've never even seen before.
That's people stop in front of my house and are staring, and I've gotten used to it now. At first, we're like, hi, hello, I'm watching you too. What are you doing? You know. And then I think, oh, it's the tree. Okay.
Yeah, they've just never seen it.
Tree.
They've just never seen anything. And that type of tree, I was always like that kind of tree. I don't know what they're called.
It's a monkey pod pine. I can't say the true name of it because
but that's
it's
good
real
enough.
long Latin name.
Monkey pod pine. Monkey pod.
Monkey pod pine or razor pine, because the needles are sharp as a razor. They're horrible. But what it is the thing is so old. They say, my husband insists that it's 140 years old, that it was there before the house. So I don't know why that would be, but he insists on that. And there's the other two trees, one on either side. They're like cypress, I guess, but they're so old and so giant that the base of them look like elephant skin, and it's just folded over. It's so gross and interesting looking at the same
Well,
time.
I love that whole area because there is a lot of history. And those of you that have listened to our show know that we have the Blue Monarch Project going on as well, besides our radio show. And the purpose of that is because where Jeannie and I live actually is one of 6 blue zones in the world because they have more people in a concentrated area that live to be over 100. And Monarchs used to be something that was like a major migration pathway all through that area right there. And they used to come through by the millions.
Wow.
And we actually had a lady, Lynn, on our show that she's 73, and she remembers the Monarchs completely covering cars.
Wow. I
Where
never
you
saw
couldn't even, and when they put the 10 freeway in, I guess there was a lot of Monarchs dying on windshields.
I do remember that actually when I was a child.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm bringing it back.
Yes,
Jeannie, I'm bringing it back.
clicking. I remember there's so many that it was all over your cars. Yes.
Yes.
Driving. Yes.
Yes, and that's what I'm talking about. And what they do during the winter is they fly to the ocean and they hang out in the eucalyptus trees there. Unfortunately, just one other quick announcement: Monsanto is they're trying to get these. I'm not. I want to stop myself because I want to clarify whether it is exactly Monsanto that's doing the trees. That might not be true, but I know that they are working on GMO trees, and these are trees that secrete their own poison, anything that lands on it. And if you get to know the logging industry, what they do is they clear cut in everything down. There's no forest left, and then the whole purpose is to use that land to grow more trees. And to make sure nothing else grows, they continually are aerial spraying with the worst of the worst pesticides. And this is happening over millions of acres. And the sad thing is we could replace this with industrial hemp. Because industrial hemp, you get a full crop every 3 months.
Wow.
Trees take years, and you can make paper and like clothing and cement. I mean, you can make so many things out of
Vitamins,
hemp, rope.
right?
Yeah,
You
you
can
eat the
eat it.
seeds. Exactly, good point. And actually, you mentioned that, Jeannie. We have all kinds of companies that use these hemp seeds in their products. They have to import them from Canada. And so because we are not allowed to grow it here in this country. They banned it in the 40s along with the other marijuana. Okay, and this does not get you high whatsoever. It's used for industrial purposes. We do have good news. There are research plots that have been approved. Rodale Institute is one. They were texting about it this week. They have everything going full force there with this research plot, and we're hoping this is going to lead to legalization of industrial hemp. We can stop. See, the logging industry is running scared. They have blocked hemp for as long as they possibly can because they know it's a competitor.
The cotton industry, I'm sure too.
Well, the cotton industry, and that's so perfect that you brought that up because actually I have a really good article on cotton. And the reason I wanted to bring up cotton, Carlos, did you get that video? Okay, everyone, we're going to play. Jeannie asked me the perfect question here, and we're still going to get into what happened to her dogs, and we're going to be talking more about how to keep your pets safe. But first, I want to address this cotton issue, and the reason is because Monsanto just put out a press release that they have accredited 57 new GM cotton growers. That means GMO cotton, which means glyphosate, and some of the worst pesticides. Cotton farmers are allowed to use the worst pesticides of all because this is not considered a food product. But there is actually a loophole to that, and you're eating it. And we're going to talk about that too. But first of all, let's hear what Dr. Stephanie Senna from MIT researcher had to say about cotton and a couple of other things. This is a 3-minute segment. I just want to announce we're going to have Dr. Seneff back on our show again. It will be either next week or the week after. Go ahead. Well, I'm just sitting here thinking about the people that are experiencing this brain fog right now and what they would turn to as a solution. And I'm thinking, they're talking with their doctor, and then their doctor's writing a prescription.
Yeah.
And there's some heavy duty drugs out there that.
I know, and they'll just make it worse. I think most of the drugs are just making the situation worse, in my opinion. You just come up with something else, and then you'll take another drug for that, and you'll have a giant cascade, and then eventually you're taking 20 different drugs, and you're feeling terrible. I mean, this is the path that people are on. I know this because I've been looking at the at the FDA's drug adverse event reporting system. And it's just amazing. You see these patients' records, and they're very dry. It's just like a list of symptoms and a list of drugs. And you see like 20 drugs, and you see like 20 symptoms. And the symptoms, when you read that list, you think, oh my God, how is this person able to actually not just commit suicide with all these health issues? You see this list of things that this one person has, and you just wonder how they get up in the morning, You
And
just try to imagine that person.
And then let's take that and put that with ADHD, autism, and what are we doing to our children, Dr.
I know.
Seneff?
That's so scary to me. And it's not just ADHD and autism. I mean, a lot of brain issues, depression, but also a lot of body issues.
Yes,
I mean,
depression.
it's like asthma, eczema.
Yes.
I mean, it's like a huge
the
number of kids with
eczema.
eczema these days. And I think that may be partly due to glyphosate in the cotton clothing, because cotton is a GMO Roundup ready crop. And so I'm suspecting glyphosate may be an irritant directly in the skin. When if we just buy new cotton clothing, it's probably got glyphosate in it. Could be a factor in the eczema that we're seeing.
And I am and what gets me about cotton is that because it's like considered a non-food item.
Yes.
They're allowed to use an even stronger, more toxic pesticide, but then they take the cotton seeds and feed them to farm animals.
Yeah, they make cottonseed oil, which actually is in our food as well, cottonseed oil.
That's right, the cottonseed oil as well.
It's a cheap oil, and probably very toxic.
And oil, because I've done a lot of research on oil and the way they extract oil.
Yes.
And if it's not organic, they're extracting it with
hexane.
Hexane, what does that A and E at the end mean?
Hexane is a very nasty chemical, very nasty. And that's one that's not nearly sufficiently regulated either. And that's going to be in the oils. I think all the non-organic oils. You need to buy, organic cold-pressed coconut oil, for example. Really, you need to buy really healthy oils.
That was Dr. Seneff, everyone, Dr. Stephanie Seneff, and we have, if you go to our homepage, smarthealthtalk.com, you'll find her picture up there. She's our all-star scientist. And if you click on that, we have our the complete interview. Not just that interview, but we have other interviews with her as well, and I hope that you'll go and listen to these. I highly recommend it. People love Dr. Seneff, because you know what? She speaks the truth. She knows what she's talking about. She does her research. She just printed a new paper on anencephaly. Anencephaly, do you know what that is, Jeannie?
No, I don't.
Okay. Those are babies born without brains.
Oh, my Lord.
This is one of the worst birth defects of all, and it's on the rise. Oh. And anyone out there that is looking at having a child, I really hope that you're going to tune in to our show with Dr. Seneff, because she has some very important warnings to prevent birth defects. And she is warning that we are looking at 80% autism rates in our boys in 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 80% autism. Listen to that, everyone. And that is because glyphosate Roundup, which is now listed as cancer-causing in the state of California, every product has to have a warning on it.
Good.
We are asking landscapers, farmers, please try to get away from using these products. Look for alternatives. You can use vinegar mixed with Epsom salt and soap. That's one formula. But there are many others out there, and they're easy to find on the internet.
And I tried that after you told me that, and my husband created this really pretty walkway with rocks and stepping stones, and then the grass took over. And I poured the vinegar on there, and it all died right away. It looked really good.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and tell everyone
right
else.
along the fence line, too, I did it.
And then you did that other suggestion for the flies from Abby. at the farmer's market
Oh.
about you were hanging stuff in the
Yeah.
trees.
Who told me that?
I think you told me Abby told you that from the farmer's market.
Okay, so
maybe.
I try. Yeah, I sprayed vinegar all around the yard because we have biting flies. They're like horse flies, and even on your legs they'll bite you. But for the dogs that stay outside, even if they're outside for an hour, they will bite their ears and make them bleed. I think they suck their blood or something. It's just horrible, and they have big sores on their ears, bloody sores. And so they told me to take wild garlic and put it around my yard, and it took care of the flies for a while anyway. Yeah. They didn't go. They went away.
They went away. Okay.
For a
well,
while.
Hey, wild garlic. And then I've also heard that, like, for getting rid of bugs, like even aphids and that, garlic powder.
Mm-hmm.
And you can mix it with water too and like spray it on.
Yeah.
They just don't like garlic.
Don't feed that to your dog, though. I don't think it's good for your dog to eat garlic. It's not. People think that it is, and it's not.
Well, and like what Dr. Sunoff said about the cottonseed oil, not only is it fed to farm animals, the cotton seeds, the oil, there are many other things that are fed to farm animals. And
That's horrible.
we are talking about like candy, gummy bears, lemon drops, Skittles. They even give them plastic pellets because they're not getting grass, and that's to simulate fiber that they're missing from the grass. So they're actually feeding the cows plastic.
Oh, that's horrible.
I know, and unfortunately it's starting to get in the fish too because there's so much plastic in the ocean right now. And I recommend, people go to our, we have a huge section in our resources for recycling. And you wouldn't believe, did you know that styrofoam takes like 1 million years to degrade?
That's horrible.
I mean, we really don't even know. We know it's going to be a very
And
long time.
I was horrified. I'm not going to say who does this, but there's a big organization, a hospital that, healthy people, our town. I'll just say our town, and you go into their hospital cafeteria, and they serve their food in styrofoam. All of their food is styrofoam. I was horrified. And it's supposed to be making man well, and you're feeding this in styrofoam?
Yeah, and what you can do is people don't realize this. You can bring your own container. Like glass containers, of course, are superior to avoid BPA.
I think we should all complain to the places that do that, though. Doesn't that leach into our food when you eat it, right?
Yes. And so everyone, we've been talking about like some of the different things that they're feeding our cows, and there's like so much junk, Twinkies, all this stuff they're giving to our animals, and you're eating the meat, drinking the milk. We were talking about oils and cottonseed oil and how that's actually in our food, despite the fact that they're allowed to use some of the most toxic chemicals of all. I have right here, if you tune into kcaaradio.com and see us on Ustream, which you can watch Jeannie and myself here, my co-hosts for today. And we have some different oils that I recommend. Never, ever buy anything but organic canola oil because almost all canola grown is GMO, and that means it's laced with some glyphosate. Yeah. Okay. Then I have some grapeseed oil. Grapeseed oil actually has a high smoke point, and so it's good for like frying things.
Which means it won't smoke, right?
Right. It means that, yeah.
Whenever I hear that, I think, I don't want to get that. I can't fry with that.
You know what? It reminds me, and I don't even want to say who said this joke because he's like so bad right now. But he said if you that's like someone says if someone throws a left hook at you, you lean into it.
Oh gosh.
It doesn't make sense. You're like, what? Smoke point? Oh, low smoke? Okay, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thanks, Jeannie. And then I have here some organic roots, and this is an olive oil. I have some Bragg's olive oil as well. And you can tell by the color when you look at these how deep the green is. Actually, this roots one is superior. The taste of it is so incredible. You don't even want to cook with it. You don't want to heat it up because it's so perfect. And there's different ways. There are, of course, varieties of oils, but different ways on how they're grown, they're pressed. Whether heat's involved or cold pressed, you want the cold pressed the best. And of course, when it's organic, you have none of that hexane that we talked about in the clip that we had with Dr. Sunoff. I also have I have some walnut oil here, which is super high in omega-3s, and then of course they have avocado oil now.
Oh,
I
that's
always think I was
delicious.
one of the first people to buy it. Like no one had even had it on the shelf, and all of a sudden it just like escalated. And of course coconut oil, and I have 3 different kinds of coconut oil here. I have Acadia, which is the name brand over at Clark's, and you know they have name brand at a lot of different stores. But then I have another French brand, La. I don't even know how to say that, but it's like Tour and then Angel. That's how I remember. And
Do they have all
of
different tastes? Is that why you have so many different
Yes,
kinds?
that's
Oh.
you're so clever, Jeannie.
Oh.
Yeah, you totally figured it out.
That's why I'm overweight, because I like the taste of everything.
Well, coconut oil, of course, is high in medium chain fatty acids. It's practically the only food that has it. As a dietitian, there are people that had genetic defects that was the only oil that they could even digest.
Wow.
I know, so I had to learn about it as a dietitian. But it is high in saturated fat, and now they're trying to slam coconut oil. Oh, that's saturated fat, it's still bad. I'm like, no, it isn't. You know, it's vegan, it's not from an animal, and to me, even the saturated fat in animals is not bad if they're grass-fed animals. And it has to be organic grass-fed because we found out.
So you're saying coconut oil cannot lead to high cholesterol or heart attacks or anything?
No,
right?
and actually, I have another clip. I didn't have it ready for today, but I'm going to be putting it on my YouTube. And you can find me on YouTube, Twitter, all the social media, Facebook, and actually the what was I going to say for?
But that was interesting, though, because I just heard, like, about a month ago that a DJ on a good news radio station or something like that saying, and it was just her own thoughts. It wasn't the radio station's idea that yes, it's not, they're not saying, they're saying it's not healthy for us anymore. And I was like, that's not true.
You know what? And they lied about the egg yolk for years.
Yeah.
You know, oh, it's so bad, it's going to raise your cholesterol. And then it didn't. And actually, with the clip with Dr. Seneff, this is so
sugar,
interesting.
right?
This is like, so, Dr. Seneff has such important information. And she had it months before anyone even like printed it. But there was a study done where they had, it was like over 50,000 people that were 60 till they died. And they measured their cholesterol and all that. Those with the highest cholesterol lived the longest.
Wow.
Those with the lowest cholesterol died the soonest, over and over again. She said that if anyone is on statins, you are totally wasting your time. You could be shortening your life. Cholesterol is part of every cell in our body. It's critical. It's critical for our brain. And that's why they're also finding that people on statins are getting dementia, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's disease from because they're not getting the cholesterol that they need.
Oh, thank you for telling me that, because I have high cholesterol, and I'm a vegetarian, so I'm like, and I work out. It's like,
Yeah, I know they want to.
what? I think it's hereditary. My mom was high cholesterol, and
Well,
she didn't eat any meat or any. She didn't even eat oil. Like no.
Well, you
oil.
have to go by your blood pressure too, and then
Low
if
blood
you
pressure.
and plus if you're eating good, because even people that are eating vegetarian.
Can be eating bad, which is
Yes,
true.
and as
Yeah.
a matter of fact, you mentioned that, and I'm so glad you mentioned that, Jeannie, because I brought something special for you, because I remember
Okay.
that you're a vegetarian. And
good memory.
and I wanted to. We were talking about feeding the cows. Well, unfortunately, we have a huge dead zone in the Gulf right now, and it's because of meat runoff. And I mean, it's huge. And there's like 4 companies that pretty much dominate the whole meat market. Major polluters, major refactory farms, slaughterhouses, all the dirty, dirty stuff.
So what's running off? Like their dung?
Yes.
Their dung is running?
From
Oh.
Texas, it's going, and like all along the Gulf there's like this huge giant area from at the bottom of Texas there
Have you
where it's
ever
been running off. Yeah.
Have you ever driven up I-5 and seen those their old farms? Oh, it's horrible. They're
Oh,
stuck
yeah.
on these little tiny
I-
pieces of
I
land
can't
with
stand
so much
it.
crap.
I
It's
can't- I
ugh.
know, and
I cry every time.
I
drive
want to.
by there.
I forgot to bring it, but I wanted to bring the hamburger that I got from my local farmer. He raises the cow himself. He's certified to do everything for the cow. It doesn't go to some dirty slaughterhouse, and I totally trust him. He's assistant superintendent of Etiwanda School District. He's like, and his son goes to the Grove School, and they have the Grove Farmers Market, and that's where Jeannie and I sometimes run into each other. And the students there learn organic farming, and they raise animals themselves, and they grow food, and that's why I love going there. I love supporting.
So where does he take it? Is there like butchers that you can just take your?
No,
cows
he has his own place. He's like way out in Pinion Hills or someplace.
So he does it himself?
Yes, he has a facility that's been certified by the government.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's went through all the training. He knows how to do it all. Because he was paying someone else.
What is their end of life like? Is it something very humane?
Well, actually, I was reading about grass-fed cows. They have to live longer because it takes 1,100 pounds is the weight that you're shooting for, and it takes many more months. It's almost like twice as long to get a grass-fed cow to that weight.
Like 4 years old or something?
No, I think it's more like 21 months, something like that.
Well, I thought they were capped for 2 years, no?
I don't know. I'm not really an expert, but I do know that it takes way longer versus the corn-fed, which their stomachs aren't even set up to process starches and all this, all this junk food and all this other stuff that they're feeding it. They're not even set up for that. And it's leaner. I get my meat from him, and I tell you, this hamburger meat, it was just like the best hamburger that I ever had. I told him last week, I'm like, man, that was the best. I wanted to save the grease in the pan and make gravy out of it. Where even organic grass-fed I get from the store, it has an off taste still when I cook a hamburger. That was like the best meat ever, and I could just tell the quality with every single thing. I buy pork from him, turkey, chickens, eggs. I get all that stuff from him, and it feels so good to give my money to Doug and his family.
Yeah, to an individual.
Yeah, and it stays in our community. It's not being shipped out someplace, and it's fresh. And he does so much to help the school as well. But we have, for those that are vegetarians, I wanted to ask, do you have any, have you ever had the tofu, the tempeh, or the seitan?
I'm a double whammy. I am also gluten intolerant, so I can't eat a lot of that stuff, unfortunately.
Oh, you can?
I just found that out about 4 years ago, and my migraines have totally gone away since I found out and I've had migraines since I was a little girl.
Really? So changing your diet made
So it wasn't the GMO, but I got worse as the GMO came in. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I went to Europe, and people were like, yeah, the wheat's different over there. You could probably eat the wheat over there. I was sick for 3 months after I had pizza in Venice, but it was worth it. But you can try, right?
Well, I was mentioning these are soy products, and I was looking.
Oh, there's soy products? Oh, I can eat that.
Yeah, and of course, organic soy is the only soy that we recommend. It's kind of like canola. It's pretty much all GMO. Unfortunately, these are the kind of things they're feeding the cows as well. But I was really surprised that tempeh had 9 grams of fiber per serving. I was like, damn, that's a lot. that's a lot of fiber in soy, you know. And I also thought it was really great that it was like 18 grams of protein in the seitan, which was only 90 calories. So that's a lot of protein for 90 calories. So that can be a good choice for people. I'm not so much, I'm okay with it. I'll eat it every once in a while. I prefer...
broccoli has protein too, so I eat a lot of broccoli.
Yeah, actually, vegetables, all vegetables do have like a little bit. Then do you eat like things like quinoa or anything like that?
I love quinoa, yeah, and brown rice. I mean, like you said, the vegetarians can eat bad, and I've had some bad habits, and so I've cleaned those out, and I'm like totally almost off sugar now. It's hard because you have to read labels really strictly.
Oh yeah, well when you start with real foods, it makes it easier when you know exactly what's in there. When you buy things in the box that are processed, that's when you're not really sure.
Yeah,
and they can, like when something that people don't realize is when it says artificial flavor on a package. Since you mentioned the label. That's actually hiding. It could be hundreds of chemicals that
horrible chemicals that could kill you, right?
Yeah, I mean, you take a bag of Skittles. Well, I have a list actually of all the chemicals to make fake strawberry. and it's over 50 chemicals that
Wow.
I don't even know. I had to take microbiology, biochemistry, and all this stuff. I don't even know what these chemicals are. I
Wow.
never have heard of them. I don't know if they're man-made, taken from nature, or what. But there's 50 chemicals to make artificial strawberry, and they hide that behind the two little words, artificial flavor.
Wow.
And when you have 5 different flavors in a bag of candy, and
Yeah.
let's say each one took 50, that's 250 chemicals
Jeez.
just for the
terrible.
flavor. And then there's artificial color
Yeah.
as well, and those come with risks.
Yeah.
You know, besides the high fructose corn syrup that's GMO with glyphosate.
Yep.
You know, so
It's
there
horrible.
are so many wonderful candies and chocolates that you can't even imagine, made by the most incredible companies. And if you go to our resources tab, where we mention we have recycled, we have information on seafood, buying good seafood, but also candy, snacks, chocolate, all organic, that are from companies, and we taste tested it ourselves. Made sure it passed the test. And I can tell you, they're all good. Okay.
Love candy.
Okay, so we got through that. We educated people on good oils. Now I want to get back to Jeannie's story, because we were talking. We've been talking about pets, and we learned that she's a pet dog trainer. She helps with special needs dogs. Oh shoot, there's one other story. Maybe I'll be able to get to that one. Okay, but and we talked about the area where she lives, and that's actually really close to the brand new VA hospital they built in Loma Linda as well. And that
I
whole
can see
thing,
it out my windows.
Oh yeah, yes, I can see it. Rush over my window.
It's like 5 stories. It's huge.
Yeah, it's gigantic. And unfortunately, I think I might have mentioned on our show before, Loma Linda uses Roundup all around their properties. I know for a fact that they do. I have the actual information from the Department of Agriculture. I'm very upset about this. I want them to stop. If there's anyone out there that agrees with me, because I live near their properties. I worry about Jeannie because she lives by the VA hospital really close. And if they're spraying Roundup around that, it's going to be coming towards you. And then there's that empty field, and I've seen them put weird things out in that empty
Green.
field too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
green
that
stuff.
green thing. What the heck was that?
And then it grew. Only a certain kind of plant came up after that. All over the place. This other weird plant
I'm
we
thinking
never
it
had
was
before.
a pesticide. I'm thinking
A
it was
pesticide plant? Oh.
or it could have been like some sort
No,
of
it was a
spray thing.
pesticide. Yeah, it was like a cement coated
yeah.
the whole earth.
And what upsets me is those are the routes that I take my dog on a walk, and I go jogging, and
It's
I
in
don't
your
want.
backyard too, isn't it? Kind of.
Yeah, I'm really close to there too. Anything that they spray over there is drifting over my house as well.
Yeah.
And they're spraying all around us, Jeannie,
Yeah.
because the Loma Linda properties are all around us, and it's not right that someone that has a foundation of wellness associated with their name, like Loma Linda, are spraying something that is a known carcinogen and that is now on the Prop 65 list as cancer causing. I am asking Loma Linda to please stop doing that. I have so many people in my neighborhood suffering with cancer. Plus, we have all these citrus farmers that are spraying pesticides. And this is something that really, every time I go by Jeannie's house, I'm just looking at those orange trees. I know that they're spraying them for this Asian citrus psyllid. It is actually a quarantine situation. The state is forcing citrus farmers to spray their trees. They don't, they're like, when I talked to the Department of Agriculture, he says, oh, those helicopter, because they're spraying them airily.
When did this start? When did they start doing that?
Did you see the helicopter in the picture?
Yeah. We went out and took pictures of it. They were spraying by
Well,
helicopter.
he claims they're very accurate, but I'm like, there is no way that you could spray the orchard by Jeannie's house and not have any drift go onto her house. There is just no friggin' way.
Well, my property is like butts up against.
It's right next to it.
And by the way, the people who own the orange grove behind us and next door to us is Loma Linda. They own those orange groves.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So the city owns them?
Yes.
Okay, this is the big problem. And Redlands has 150
Oh,
orchards
interesting.
that are woven in between residential properties.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And they are spraying every one of those trees. And there is residential houses all around there. And these pesticides, they try to say, oh, it'll dissipate, but if you read the label, it has all kinds of risks associated. And it says if you see a sprinkler come on and it goes into the gutter, call the state immediately
Oh, my
because
goodness.
it hurts amphibians.
What?
Yes.
Oh,
That's how
'cause we-
toxic it is.
Because we when they water, there's big puddles, giant puddles, and my dogs swim in them and drink the water out of that.
Well, and there could be residue from the
Oh, yeah.
pesticides on the trees because they're spraying airily from a helicopter.
What is the blowover from when they spray? Do you have any idea? Like, isn't it
Well,
like a half a mile at least or something?
Well, see, this is what kind of, I have talked to experts on this, okay? And it can actually travel miles and even further than like just miles, like even hundreds of miles because it can travel along with the weather, like
Currents,
clouds,
like currents?
and rain and that kind of a thing, and it can go for a very long period. So the bottom line is we're introducing this to the environment, and we're thinking that somehow it just like magically disappears. It does not. It resides there. There's residual. It goes into our water supply. As a matter of fact, another one of the announcements that I had here today, I don't even need it because I have it memorized, was that it just came out today that they tested all this water in the Midwest and the Plains region of the United States, and over half of it was way over the pesticide level that it was supposed to be, which means it's killing amphibians and every other living thing in the waterway. Besides that, we're swimming in it, we're drinking, this goes into our water supply. We're eating fish out of it, we're using it to grow our crops. And all these waterways are because we are introducing billions of pounds of pesticide every year, and all of it goes into the waterway. We have algae blooms because these fertilizers are made from natural gas. They're not natural. They're not natural to use on our fields. They're packed full of nitrogen, which is way higher than a compost or plants or even,
that sounds
cow
explosive, even, doesn't it?
Yes, they may.
Could cause fires.
Yeah, you were
Right?
so you're. I love the things that you come up with because they actually use those fertilizers for bombs.
You're right.
Yeah,
That's really scary.
yeah, and this is what we're eating. We're eating this fertilizer. That's where our nutrition is coming from, natural gas, and we're supposed to be healthy and not get disease
That's a lot of
with
crap.
that. But the nitrogen gets so concentrated in the water that this algae blooms. It cuts off all the oxygen in the water.
Well, what started happening to me is about 2 years ago, I had something very strange happen. One of my dogs, and she was a young dog, and she was from her grandmother had huge litters and was a strong dog and had many, many litters and effortlessly. The kind of dogs we have no problems fertility. They birth easily. Well, so anyway, she absorbed all of her puppies. This happened twice. Finally, the vet said that's just how she is. You have to move her on. So I had to let her go. So now, fast forward 2 years, and now I have another dog. This dog is absolutely gorgeous to look at. She's an international champion. She's so sweet, and she had stillborns. Beautiful, perfect, big, gorgeous puppies, and they were born.
Oh, I'm gonna cry.
I know, horrible. And out of 9 puppies, we only had 4.
Oh my God,
Live.
Jeannie, it's so upsetting.
So my vet said, let's try it again. Use a different male, and he has a fertility expert that works with them. So we tried a different male. Now she has 10 puppies. We actually even did an implant, which is not surgically because I didn't want to hurt her, but they do it with a camera to make sure it's getting the right place and everything. Different male, very good sperm and everything. Again, she had 10 puppies, and we only have 5. All the other ones were stillborn. And they said to me, well, you better move her on, fix her and let her go. And she's gorgeous, and everybody wants a puppy from her. She's so amazing. And I thought, can't do this. I can't make something that's going to promote death, you know. So I went to my radiologist who does the sonograms for me. By the way, she's educated for people, worked with people many years. She said, oh, I worked with a dog like that before with a veterinarian who had problem even conceiving. What it was is a drop in the hormone level. She says, what's happening with your dog is right when it gets right before it's to give birth, the progesterone level drops. And isn't that what happens with the pesticides? Affects the thyroid, which affects our hormone levels.
Absolutely. They're called, so many of these pesticides, Jeannie, are called hormone disruptors.
Wow.
And actually, I just read about the man that invented them at the University of California at Riverside, right here in our backyard. And he was like so disgusted at what our government did with it, what they were using these pesticides for, how they were abusing them, and he just saw the whole vision of all the death and destruction that could come from this. And his last years of his life, he was so unhappy and so depressed about everything that he saw. And we have, if you tuned in last week, you know that we have about 4 minutes left, and I want to get to some other things that we can do to protect our dogs. And one of the things is don't ever use flea collars. Those are like some of the worst pesticides of all. And things like ticks, if you're worried about ticks, actually go down and get some quails and introduce those to your yard. They eat a whole bunch. They eat the ticks up, and you don't even have to worry about them. And there's another, like a guinea fowl, that is another bird that will actually eat all the ticks up.
Well, I like diatomaceous earth. You can get it at your feed store. It's $19 for 50 pounds, and you sprinkle it all over in like a fertilizer thing. You can bathe your dog in it. It's a white powder. It'll kill fleas.
It's fossils. It's fossils from millions of years ago, and that's an excellent suggestion.
I feed it to my dogs. It helps them to get rid of internal parasites and external parasites.
Yeah, and you can use it in your yard, but you just don't want to breathe it.
Don't want to breathe it. It's very bad for your lungs.
You don't want to breathe it. There are other things like there's cedar oil. That's another thing that you can use that's not supposed to be as bad.
Peppermint oil too supposedly gets rid of rats. So
exactly. They don't like peppermint oil, but I had a 50-year vet say that Head and Shoulders shampoo for shampooing for fleas.
Yeah.
Is actually kills the fleas. So that just tells you, you know,
boy,
it's got some toxic stuff in
it's
it.
A strong shampoo.
And just, you know, keeping your yard, your house clean. All of these things are really important. But when they did this one study, they found that the chemicals that were found in homes more often than anything was the flea collar pesticide. And these are some of the worst pesticides. There are some things, I'm going to be actually putting a whole section on this, but if you type in Al Plechner, Plechner, Smart Health Talk, we have a couple of interviews with him, and he was 50 years a vet, and he has so many good suggestions that it's really worth listening to. And I also have some other alternatives that you can use that are safer to some of these other pesticides. But we're giving them like pills that have pesticide in them, and they have warnings for seizures on there. And if your child touches it, the dog, after you put this flea collar on, and we use organic cat and dog food, and I highly recommend that, because all of these GMOs and pesticides that are in our food, they can be even worse in pet food, because they use like the byproducts from the factory farmed animals that are being fed all these things. And you could just make brown rice, get organic brown rice, and put some protein and vegetables in there. I've done that too. But we're gonna get back with Jeannie. We're gonna see if we can maybe try to work on solving this problem.
The pesticides and the orange groves,
Yeah, the pesticides and the orange grove, and just subjecting all of this to these pesticides. Don't think that you have to agree to this. You can opt out. You can call the state and tell them you don't want them spraying your yard. Please go to our Blue Monarch Project and find us on all social media. And thank you so much for tuning into Smart Health Talk. And thank you so much, Jeannie,
Thank
for
you
being
for
my
having
host.
me.
I had so much fun today with you here.
Thanks.
And we're, again, we have all these resources. Take advantage of them and buy organic, buy local, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Elaine McFadden. Bye.
Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
NBC News Radio. I'm Tom